Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us today because, well, we are looking at something truly mind-bending. We're going to explore the absolute extremes of animal biology. Our planet is just packed with life forms that completely push the boundaries of what seems physically possible. So today, we're going to see just how wild nature can actually get.
Think you know everything about the animal kingdom? It's incredibly easy to look at the everyday animals around us and think, right, we understand the rules of biology. We think we know what a heartbeat should sound like, or kind of how long a nap should be. But nature absolutely loves to break its own rules in the most spectacular, unimaginable ways. Okay, let's dive into this and shatter some of those preconceptions right now.
Section 1. Marvels of Animal Anatomy, focusing on the bizarre and the giant.
We are starting with the largest animal on Earth, the blue whale. When a blue whale is up at the surface, its massive heart has to pump blood through a body the size of a literal submarine. And it beats so incredibly fast and with such immense explosive power that the sound of that heartbeat travels up to 3 kilometers away. Seriously, imagine standing almost 2 miles away from an animal and being able to hear its heart pounding through the water. It's an absolute engine of life just running at maximum capacity.
But when that exact same blue whale dives down into the dark, freezing depths of the ocean, everything changes. To conserve oxygen in that deep water, that massive, roaring engine slows down to an absolute crawl. It drops to just 1 beat per minute, sometimes 8 beats a day. And in the most extreme conditions, its heart might beat only twice in an entire day. 2 single beats to sustain the largest creature on the planet. The contrast is just staggering.
Now, you look at a towering giraffe, right? A creature that easily reaches the tops of acacia trees, and you'd naturally assume they must have dozens of extra vertebrae to make that neck so unbelievably long. But what's really interesting about this slide is they don't. They have exactly 7 bones in their neck. Literally, if you look in the mirror, you have exactly 7 bones in your neck too. We share the exact same number. Nature just decided to scale a giraffe's 7 bones to massive proportions, basically recycling the same structural foundation for completely different extremes.
Speaking of bizarre anatomical proportions, consider the ostrich. Its eye is actually physically larger than its entire brain. So, we kind of have to ask ourselves, how on earth does an animal navigate the world when its visual hardware takes up more physical space than its central processing unit? It tells us that for the ostrich, rapid visual input is far more critical to its survival than complex thought. It literally has to prioritize seeing over thinking. How wild is that?
Moving right along, let's look at Section 2, Strange Behaviors and Diets. This is all about what animals actually do. If you tickle a rat, it also laughs. I've got to say, this is one of my absolute favorite facts, just because it adds such a surprising, kind of sweet layer of emotion to an animal we so often misunderstand. Rats are actually ticklish, and they genuinely laugh. But here's the catch. Humans simply cannot hear their voices. They vocalize this joy at an ultrasonic frequency. It really makes you wonder, what other joy is happening in the natural world right next to us, completely silent to our human ears.
Now let's shift gears to a timeline that truly defies belief. Imagine being asleep for year 1, still completely asleep through year 2, and only finally waking up in year 3. The snail is an animal that can sleep for 3 entire years. 3 years! Think about everything you do in 3 years. A snail can spend that entire duration in a deep, uninterrupted slumber. It is the ultimate biological pause button, just completely shutting down to survive.
Okay, think about a cactus for a moment. Imagine just lightly brushing your hand against a thorny cactus. That sharp, immediate pain, right? Ouch! Now consider the camel. The camel is an animal that can walk right up to that same violently spiky cactus and just eat it, chew it up, and swallow it like it's nothing. Their mouths are so uniquely lined with these tough, hardened structures that those vicious thorns don't even bother them. It's a rugged extreme for a super harsh environment.
All right, let's test your knowledge for a second. Which animal is physically incapable of jumping? Think about it. We see tiny insects jump, we see massive predators leap, but there is one specific creature whose anatomy strictly forbids all of its feet from leaving the ground at once. Any guesses?
It's the elephant, and this brilliantly illustrates a really profound physical limitation imposed by nature. The elephant is simply too massive, and its leg bones point strictly downwards to support that immense weight. They completely lack the spring-like joints required to launch themselves into the air. It is literally the only animal that cannot jump. Gravity and sheer mass just win every single time.
And that brings us to Section 3, the endless growth cycle, exploring life and its limits. Kangaroos never stop growing until they die. Really think about that for a second. As humans, we reach adulthood, and our skeleton basically says, okay, we're done here. Our physical growth has a fixed, hardwired limit. But the kangaroo? It always keeps growing. Day after day, year after year, it continues to physically expand as long as it draws breath. It is a continuous, unending life cycle of growth that only stops when the animal's life comes to an end. It entirely redefines how we think about aging and biological limits, doesn't it?
So let's bring this all together. We have whale hearts so powerful they can be heard 3 kilometers away. We have laughing, ticklish rats experiencing joy we can't even hear. We have the mind-boggling 3-year slumber of a snail and the unending physical growth of the kangaroo. What this tells us is that the biological rules we think are standard, the rules governing our own human bodies, are just a tiny, tiny fraction of what biology is actually capable of on this wildly diverse planet. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative question. With all these wild adaptations in nature, what hidden biological extremes might humans still have left to discover within ourselves? I mean, if a rat can laugh at frequencies we can't hear, and a giraffe can stretch 7 neck bones to the sky, what untapped potential is sitting dormant